Alright everybody, it's a workshop day today, and actually after I already built that bridge there, I thought, well, maybe I could show you guys the next step in things to build around here. And I'll show you. I've built one of them already. I'm going to build another. I think it's called a standard post, whatever. A couple of features about it that I like personally. I built it just out of 2x4s, not a 4x4. It's light, it's pretty good. The end here has, maybe you can see that, I'll bring that up, has an angle to it, or an angled cut on the inside. So I'd cut both ends of the 2x4 to give me something to hang stuff in. I'll show you that in a second. And then the bottom is just your typical 4-spoke support system, but I sort of add a little bit of my own. I think I've seen it before, but I like the idea. I'll flip this thing upside down, but I put an angled cut here. I think it looks nicer, and it also makes it for a lower profile for when you want to get the horse even closer to it. So I'll show you what I'm going to hang on this, at the very least. Up there. Okay, found them. And as we kind of go about building out more stuff here, we've got the ability to put things like ropes. There's a big 60-footer. It even fits in there. I'd rather have this than a hook or something out the side. I'd rather just sort of sit on top. I mean, if it was just a 2x4, you could put it like that, but I think this adds just an easier go about it, holds things on a little bit nicer. It's not much, but for the kids, little kids rope, just kind of fits in there nicely. And you know, if they go by and they don't quite get it, it's not going to just slide off and whatnot. So little tiny things. All right, so let's get started in making one of these suckers. It's not very difficult, you know, but you know, I think the hardest part might be doing the support on the bottom. If your measurements are correct and everything looks good, it should be, you know, nice and flat. You know, all the angles should be correct, and it should just stand up nicely. Like that. Okay, so let's get started. I've got some 2x4s here. They're 10-footers. I cut them in half and make a 5-foot standard. So let's get on with that. I will double check to make sure that this is a 10-foot. So if I measure it exactly 5, no, see, it's 10 foot and slightly under. You guys are going to be able to see that, but just over 10 feet. So 10 foot. Let's see. Imperial system is so weird. It's almost 10 and a half. It's just under 10 and a half. So 10 3/8. Which means we want to make a mark over here. 5 at 1 1/2/8. Whatever. The metric system, I think, in my opinion, is superior to this weird imperial system that some Canadians do, but most don't. In the construction business, it's very common, but the metric system is far superior. It's just easier. Sorry, Americans, but you're almost the only country that uses it so much. So let's see if we can get this thing in half. Give me a little bit of noise. Like that. Check it out. Yep, it's pretty good, but not good enough. So I can feel it. It's about, I guess you'd say it's about a 1/16 of an inch. Just a tiny, tiny bit over. I'm going to be picky enough to shave that off. And now I should have 2 pieces of equal length. Yep. One of the ways you can tell is just by using your fingers on the edges. That'll focus in. And you can sort of feel it there. If I hold this tight, and this too should be quite flush. Okay, so the next step that we want to take is to cut, flies everywhere, cut the 45-degree bits on the top that hold things on it. So these 2x4s that I have a rough side and a smooth side. I want the smooth side out, so I want to cut the inside off. So I'll set up the saw for 45 degrees, and it's got it written, I'll show you guys real quick, on the top here. I don't know if you've got one of these saws, if everybody knows what one of these saws are. It's a chop saw. I think it's also called a miter saw. Anyhow, the point being that you can set things up to these certain angles. So it's hard to do it with one hand. So we move the little marker to there, 45 degrees, right there, and make our cuts. Okay, 2 cuts, real simple. Now the other thing that I want to consider is how far in to make these cuts. So I do know that on the other one it was just about a 1/2 inch or so from the outside edge. So I'm going to try to do the same thing for these. And we're cutting off the rough portion, like so. That's one. We'll get the other. Okay, now I did eyeball it and I didn't really properly measure things out. So again, I'm going to come to one end and then the other, and I can sort of... Okay, so with these together, what I'm going to do is just hold the other end, make sure it's flush, and then come up here and check to see if I'm happy with how it fits together in there. I think I am. Looks pretty good. Next thing we got to do is screw it together. Okay, so all we're really doing here is just putting together a couple of 2x4s, so we don't need a lot of power or hold. I'm just going to use a small 2-inch screw, which will go essentially about halfway through the bottom one. I'm going to screw from one side and then up through the other when I'm done one side of this. So let's do that. Now when I learned how to do woodwork and stuff, I was told always stagger your screws. So whereas one might be here, the other comes to this side. And then one there, and then one there. Now these 2x4s aren't perfect. They've got a little bit of a bend in them here and there. So the bottoms and the bottom and the top need to line up. The rest kind of don't, and that's okay. Okay, flip it over, do the other side. Now you may be wondering why I haven't screwed in into the very bottom over here. That's because when I make my legs or my supports, I put the supports on, I've cut 3, I only need to cut 1 more. But all the screws are going to be going through here and here, which will hold the bottom together quite nicely. Okay, so I need to cut 1 more piece. Okay, so the legs or the support system is built off of just simple pieces, 16 inches in length. These ones are 5 feet. It doesn't have to be exact perfect in length, but yeah, I should get this thing pretty close, I think. Quick tip for our little carpentry stuff, building stuff. These I could only find them in purple and, you know, kids colors and stuff, but and only girl colors. Weird. But these types of pencils, I don't know if you have them in whatever country you might be watching this from, but essentially the tip, if it'll, I don't know if it'll focus. I'll stand up front here. The tip of the pencil actually comes off, and then you take the piece that you took off, put it in the back, and then you get a sharp pencil. So always sharpening pencils in carpentry. Okay, so with our 16-inch piece, take a measurement for the next one. Again, you're just feeling with your fingers. Make a mark. Set my saw up correctly. And make our cut. And we have our next 16-inch piece. Now, for the, let's post out of the way for a second. For the little angle bit that I put, that makes it kind of look a little nicer, all I did was set up the saw here, again, for 15 degrees. And then we'll just make our cuts. We're making them lengthwise to the piece. So now the only other thing I did was measure 1.5 inches. And tried to get that on the mark. We'll do 2 pieces at a time to save time. And then once I've got that done, it's even easier. I just line this up. I don't need both of them. One there. And just make a mark for the next 2. Okay, we'll put these 2 together. Make sure they line up nice. V. Okay, now we have our 4 pieces that we're ready to put onto the standard. the post. It's not too hard. Okay, so with all of our pieces cut, ready to go, we're going to put these things on so that the bottom is flush. The first one's pretty important. It's got to be flush on this side and flush on this side, meaning that it matches up really nicely. I've got my screws here. I just need my drill. Or screw gun or whatever it's called. It's the impact gun actually, or impact drill. I recommend impact drills for sure. They're kind of noisy and stuff, but they sure save on the torque on your wrist. So we'll get this started. Okay. So we always double check and make sure we've got some good contact there on the edges. And in it goes. And that's pretty good. We put 2 screws in per support. And it just looks like that. You can see it's flush there and there. Okay, moving on to the next one. The next one just goes on quite simply along the way like that. And so it'll fit just nicely in this little space. And we'll continue around throughout the whole piece, the whole post, like that. So let's do it. Okay, and that's it's all done. It's finished. All 4 pieces are on, nice and tight. We'll give it a test. Put it on some reasonably flat ground. It's not quite flat, but and there she sits. Take our rope, put it on top. This thing's ready for games, just like that. Okay, now we need some horses. Who should I get?